Bring back rock. Hey everybody, it's Dean. Welcome to Bring Back Rock. Today we're talking about your underrated albums from 1987. If you want to go back and please check out my underrated albums from 1987, do that. Now I give you guys a chance to tell me what I missed. And right off the bat, I'm going to talk about two albums that I should not have missed. The first one is Shy, Access All Areas. It was their biggest, I think their biggest album, definitely had their biggest hit on it, Break Down the Walls, which was co-written by Don Dokken and got MTV airplay on Headbangers Ball and such. Really, really good record. They do have a lot of keyboards in their album, in their music, which sometimes I didn't like, but I liked it in this band. They did a really good job. Great songs like Break Down the Walls and Devil Woman and Telephone and Can't Fight the Night and When the Love Is Over. Listen, I could name all of them. Great album. Tony Mills on vocals. I don't know if I said that. Really, really good album. Shy, Access All Areas. The next one I missed, this band, it was a third major label release, and I'm in the minority. I think they got better with each album. Autograph, Loud and Clear. I know I'm not the only one that thinks that, but I know I'm in the minority. They were featured in the movie Like Father, Like Son, which starred Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron. It was kind of a minor hit, had maybe $35 million on a $10 million budget. One of those body switching movies. Really good. She Never Looked That Good for Me. The title track, Loud and Clear, which had a video also which had Vince Neil and Ozzy Osbourne in it. But really good album by Autograph. I think probably their best, and I missed it on my underrated albums from 1987. Next up, you guys told me EZO was underrated, and I agree. Good album. A band from Japan. They used to be called Flatbacker. They released some albums in Japan under that name. Came to the U.S., had the name change. I heard Gene Simmons was the reason for the name change. He produced the band. It had a couple of singles off of it. Didn't do great. Went to about 150 on the Billboard album charts, but the singles were Here It Comes and Flashback Heart Attack. Now they also had a song called House of a Thousand Pleasures, which the guitar riff there from that song kind of became the signature sound for Z-Rock. If any of you had that syndicated radio show back in the day, or radio station back in the day. I wish we did, but we didn't. I had Metal Shop, the only show with teeth, every Saturday night, so that was cool. But anyway, EZO, their debut album, underrated in 1987. All right, we just talked about EZO from Japan. Let's also talk about another band I never heard of before. That's part of the reason I included it. Vow Wow, V-O-W space W-O-W. Now this is a band from Japan also that used to be called Bow Wow, and they released a bunch of albums before changing their name to Vow Wow after a singer change. They released this album, I believe it's V or 5, depending on how you want to read it. Solid hard rock, heavy metal, out of Japan. Never really broke through here. You can definitely go check it out on YouTube and stuff. Eventually they ended up having more changes and going back to Bow Wow, but they released 3 albums as Vow Wow. So go check out Vow Wow if it's a band you've never heard of before. At least one of you guys told me it was underrated in 1987. I had never even heard of them, so I had to check them out and tell you guys about it. The next one of your underrated albums from 1987 is YNT Contagious. This one went to number 78 on the Billboard charts. They had a single and a video for the title track. We all know YNT is good. We all know they're criminally underrated. They never get the credit they deserve. This is a really good YNT album. And it was just, once again, underrated in 1987. YNT Contagious. If you're not familiar with YNT, go check them out. Great band. All right, next up, another band that, like YNT, has a solid following, pretty good fan base, but never really broke through, is Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper released Rock You to Hell. This one went to number 73 on the Billboard album charts. Was probably their most successful album, I think. The title track got video play and airplay, but after this album, they did not release another album for 29 years. That's a big break. And just in case you missed it, about 3 years ago, Steve Grimmett, the lead singer from Grim Reaper, died. So This will be All for Grim Reaper that you get was their last album. So, but Rock You to Hell in 1987 did pretty well for them, but was still underrated. All right, moving right along because we got a lot of albums to get through. TNT is one that a number of you said was underrated. They released their album Tell No Tales, which went to 100 on the U.S. album charts. It was their best-selling album in the U.S. Didn't really break them through here, but it was their best-selling record in the U.S. 10,000 Lovers and One was a great song on there. Had a little more commercial-sounding effort than in the past. And just so you know, Rock Candy Records reissued this one, so go out and pick it up anytime you want for not too bad of a price. All right, next up, Helloween, Helloween, for those that don't know. Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 1. The band actually wanted to release a double album, Part 1 and Part 2. The record company said nope, and so you just get Part 1. They went to about 104 on the US. It's a power metal album. Their first album with Michael Kiske on vocals. Like I said, went to 104 in the US, but was much bigger in Europe in a lot of countries. So, and then their second album, internationally, their reputation just grew. In the US, their second album sold about the same. But Helloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys was also mentioned by a bunch of you guys as an underrated album from 1987. We're going to kind of stick with power metal, and we're going to go with Man O' War, Fighting the World. This had Blow Your Speakers, which was on MTV quite a bit. I have the 12-inch I got. Actually, my parents picked it up for me. They saw a bunch of records at a garage sale that they thought I might like and picked them up for me, which is actually really cool. So anyway, I got the 12-inch single of Blow Your Speakers. The album did eventually go gold, but I could not find exactly where this album ended up on the charts. I got 3 different ones here. 83, 123, or 92, depending on what site you chose to believe. The internet can be a bunch of filthy liars. All right, keep on going with one more metal one here. Sabotage, Hall of the Mountain King. This one was kind of started so a little progressive side of the band. It's not a concept album, which a lot of people think it is. The title track, Hall of the Mountain King, got a lot of video play. I remember seeing it all the time on Headbangers Ball. It kind of moved them up to a new level. It only went to 116 on the U.S. record charts, but kind of set the stage for bigger things to come. Sabotage, Hall of the Mountain King. All right, next up we have Dio, Dream Evil. It was his 4th studio album, first one without Vivian Campbell. Greg Goldie from Rough Cut actually came on and did the guitar work on this one. Some people don't like this album very much. They call it the Dio Sellout album. Some people really like it except for a song or two, and some people still absolutely love this record. So probably an underrated record, in my opinion. You guys go check it out, decide for yourself. It went to 43 in the US. So it had some success, but it was a big drop-off in sales from the last album to this one. Big drop-off. So Dio, Dream Evil, underrated in 1987. Next up, we have a guitar player, John Norum from Europe. He did a solo album called Total Control. I was not familiar with this record back in the day. Somebody pointed out to me not too very long ago, and I listened to it, and I really liked it. Really good, solid, hard rock record with John Norum handling the guitar and the vocal duties, and he can sing. It even contains a cover of Vinnie Vincent Invasion's Back on the Streets, which is really good. So, good, solid, hard rock album by John Norum. Probably should have got a little bit more recognition. It was on CBS Records because it is solid. It's good record, underrated album from 1987. Don't remember, John Norum later played guitar with Don Dokken after Dokken broke up on the Up for the Ashes album, and later joined Dokken and recorded the Long Road Home, I believe is the name of the album. Recorded that one with Don. So, John Norum, Total Control, underrated 1987. Next up, we have a band out of Germany, Bonfire. They were a band earlier, had a name change, changed to Bonfire. This is their second album under the Bonfire name. I think it was their second U.S. release as well. It's called Fireworks. And once again, really good, solid, hard rock from back in the day. Maybe a little Scorpions-ish, or maybe that's just me because they're both from Germany. I don't know. But good solid hard rock from back in the day. These albums, a lot of their old albums have been re-released with a new singer and a new style. I personally say stick with the originals. I think they're much better. So Bonfire Fireworks came out in 1987 as an underrated album. Next up, we have Lee Aaron, her self-titled record, Lee Aaron, obviously. Now, in my opinion, this one was definitely a more commercial record. She's starting to lean more into the pop side of things or the commercial side of things and less the metal queen side of things. It went to 34 in Canada, also found some success in some European countries. Check it out. A lot of people thought that Lee Aaron's fourth album was underrated in 1987, as well as Overkill. Overkill, New Jersey thrash band. They released Taking Over, their second full-length album on Atlantic Megaforce. Now, this album only went to 191 on the Billboard charts, barely cracking the top 200. So underrated in the mainstream. I think this band and this album have a very solid reputation in the among thrash fans. So Overkill, Taking Over, underrated in 1987. All right, next we have Deep Purple, House of Blue Light. Now, Deep Purple's always been more popular in other places other than the U.S. It only went to number 34 in the U.S. charts, but it went charted all over the world, about at least a dozen other countries. Went to number 1 in a couple of countries. This was the reunited Mark II version of Deep Purple, which was Ian Gillan, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, Richie Blackmore, and John Lord, I believe. You can go double check that on me if you want. So it did really well, in other countries. Not so great in the U.S. Only went to number 34. Like I said, Return of Mark II. Check out Deep Purple's House of Blue Light. Next, we have another one, MSG. Good call on this one. It was the debut album from Macaulay Schenker Group. MSG was also Michael Schenker Group before that, but this was the first one featuring vocalist Robert Macaulay. I kind of went on a Macaulay kick not too long ago and started looking at, his older stuff. And I didn't love this album when it first came out, but gave it another listen to and liked it a lot more than I did in the past. So kind of grew on me quite a bit. So Perfect Timing is the name of the album. Came out in 1987. They had a minor hit, which was called Gimme Your Love, which went to number 40 on the U.S. charts. U.S. rock charts, I should say, not the pop charts. So not a huge success. It only went to 93 in the U.S., so not huge, but I remember this album being promoted pretty heavily and friends of mine having it and stuff. So Macaulay Schenker Group, Perfect Time. Next up, we have Malice, License to Kill. Pretty much a straight-up metal album. Interesting, they had Dave Mustaine and Dave Ellison from Megadeth do background vocals on a song, as well as Jamie St. James and Tommy Thayer from Black and Blue. This album, we talked earlier about Like Father Like Son with Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron body swapping movie featuring Autograph. There's another body swapping movie called Vice Versa with Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage, and this one featured Malice. So just shows you kind of where the music was at the time with these bands being featured in these movies, things like that. Band broke up shortly after this. The member changes. One of the guys actually joined Megadeth for a short time. So License to Kill. Quite a few guys mentioned this one. Pretty good album. Check it out if you're not familiar with Malice. Next, we have Kane Roberts. Kane Roberts' self-titled debut. If you remember, everybody remembers Kane Roberts. Kind of looked like Rambo with a guitar that shot flames. Played with Alice Cooper for a few albums. This was his debut album, which was kind of a little all over the place. Kind of AOR, sometimes metal, sometimes hard rock. His next album had a little more success, but we'll talk about that later. So this was the debut album with him on guitar and vocals. Had some really good songs on it, like Full Pull and Rock Dolls, and just didn't even chart, I don't think, on the album charts. I remember seeing it and didn't get it at the time. I did end up getting it, of course, years later, and liked it quite a bit. But Kane Roberts' self-titled album came out in 1987, and according to you guys, an underrated album. All right, that brings us to our final album of your list, which is Odin. We know Odin. We all saw The Decline of Western Civilization, Part 2, The Metal Years. Great, very memorable. This one was called Don't Take No for an Answer. It was re-released on the compilation album By the Gods. We know Odin, good, solid, heavy metal band that never really made it, but did have their moment of infamy, if you will, from The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. So an underrated album released, or EP, I guess, in 1987. All right, that wraps it up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll have 1988 next, and then, of course, I'll do another video with your underrated albums. Try to keep this about 20 albums with mine, and with yours, about 40 albums of underrated music there. Even with all the other big ones that was happening, the music was huge at this time. All right, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will catch up with you on the next episode.